Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie, and welcome back to another DraftKings DFS Premier League slate breakdown. Hope you guys enjoyed the last one with Gator Guide for the Boxing Day preview. It was super fun to record, but back on my own now, and I hope everyone had a good time over the holidays and had a good Christmas if you celebrate it. All right, so let's get right into it. It's a big slate, kind of four gamer. We've had a lot of small slates as of late. We only have a three gamer for Boxing Day, so kind of finally back to normal here. And it's a Man City slate, so really back to normal. And we've had a lot of these -100 favorite slates. Nope, now we're back to real Premier League slates, which is stack Man City. So yeah, they're -1200. Aston Villa -250. Wolves, Everton, both plus, and Crystal Palace, Brentford, both plus. First lineup I got here, Villa Burnley. Set pieces, they've kind of gone back to the most normal that I've ever seen them, which is just a McGinn, Douglas Luiz in swinger split. No more Digne randomly hopping on because he's injured. Bailey has stopped randomly taking. So yeah, it's the first time we've had consistent Aston Villa sets. For Burnley, it is if it's this lineup, mainly good Munster with maybe a little bit of Brownhill. We've seen Tressor in the last couple of weeks, and he'd take over Brownhill if he was in. And then I think that's that for them. Crystal Palace, Olise takes the vast majority of sets as they will top on a few randomly. We saw him take a little bit more of the free kicks, while Olise took a little bit more of the corners last game. For Brentford, Jensen's finally been kind of integrated back into the team. He came on and took everything last game off the bench. So finally kind of seeing an end to the Goddard's monopoly. So Jensen is now back to Jensen time. Man City, they've been interesting. We've seen Alvarez monopoly in the past. We've kind of now seen it switch to a Bernardo Silva Alvarez split, and he's actually crossing a handful of the corners he's taken, which is super rare for Bernardo. Like usually he just plays it short every time, but he actually had a decent amount last game. And for Sheffield United, Ollie Norwood monopoly in this lineup. We had Hammer in last game, and he was a pretty good play. He had like 12 points or something, but got subbed early. So I can understand why FUTMob would think they rotate him now, considering the fixture congestion. Norwood did get rested last game, so Norwood monopoly likely. For Wolves, Pablo Sarabia on everything. For Everton, if it's Andre Gomez in, it'll be an Andre Gomez McNeil split. I'm not sure he starts. If there's no him, then it's just Garner McNeil. All right. Prices. First of all, big name first tier, Julian Alvarez and cash, you just plug him in there. Like I know he doesn't get a ton of crosses, but like he's just their best attacker and he's got the closest thing Man City had to a floor, really. And then he's probably the highest upside play on the slate too, compounding that since Holland is still out. It's just an expensive price for Bernardo. DraftKings definitely see he's on corners. He plays 90 every game. Like this is rare. Like we have not seen a crossing Bernardo in a long time. We used to these numbers, but yeah, now 6 crosses back to back. He's taking corners. I just don't know if I really like him for 10K though. I feel like he doesn't have as much upside as some of the other Man City attacking pieces, and you're never really sure where he's going to play. But I think he's pretty position dependent. If you see him in an attacking role, like not as like a right wing back or center mid, then I think he could be pretty interesting. The problem is that there's so many Man City pieces and they're all expensive now. Like Phil Foden, I think I'd go him over Bernardo. Like he's not taking, but he's kind of got a just a floor and fouls drawn and shots and key passes. Like he'll just get there anyway. Like he had 11, 12. I know he had an assist this game, but like he's getting a decent amount of floor without taking any set pieces. And he's cheaper than Bernardo with higher upside. So might be just a Foden plug and Foden Alvarez kind of slate. As I think he's a little expensive. If we see no Olise, I'm interested in that. He had like a bad in real life performance against Chelsea. He gave away the penalty kick that they won the game on. Like I'm kind of hoping he doesn't start, so then it'll be a better spot for Olise. There's Dwight McNeil for 8,800. I think this is probably just not the slate for him because it's Man City and kind of need a lot more upside than he usually has. Ollie Watkins, now he has upside. This is going to be a big differential for GPP when everyone just kind of wants to plug City. Aston Villa are still a pretty big favorite on this slate. I know they're not minus 1,200, but minus 250 is good. And Aston Villa have the capability to really steamroll teams, although we haven't seen that recently and they've kind of fallen off a little bit. I think that could be a good thing for them, for getting them at low ownership now, though. I'm not really interested in a ton of these guys because of the likes of Aston Villa and Man City. Like Cunha has been pretty hot. I also don't really like picking against Everton right now. I know that Man City hammered them, but that's Man City, so you can't really judge that too much. Boone Larson, if he's in, he'll end up taking. I didn't mention him when we were looking at lineup since he wasn't in projected, but if he plays, I think he's actually for 7K and away to Villa. Never mind, I'm not that big of a fan of that. I was gonna maybe make that argument. Good Munson for 6K. That's a little bit better than the 7 for Brune Larson. Like he gets a lot of points in the limited minutes he has. I don't think that's terrible because you're gonna need some sort of value here with how expensive all the Man City guys are. Gatto's if there's somehow still no Jensen starting, I think you just play that. You take his 8 points for 5,500. Like that's a solid return. I'm looking for a real true value here. I just don't know if there's anyone really here though. Yeah, I think that more than likely you have to pay up at forward, probably both slots. Now midfield, I love Elise. Like he's my boy, but this is if there was a time to fade him, this might be it. Like Eze is back, so he's not got a true monopoly anymore. And it's a Man City slate. Like he's a big decision. He's also been priced up a little bit. So I think that's a big, big decision here. Is whether you go Elise or another Man City attacker. I don't know if there's a true right answer. Is Pedro Neto back? No, he's on the bench. Man, if Neto starts, that really it pulls a spanner into the works for the usual Wolves kind of players like Sarabia. If Neto is playing, then Sarabia, I don't know. Like I don't know what they do for sets. We saw when it was first Neto and Sarabia healthy, they swap every other game. You're never really sure who'd end up taking. So if I see both of them in, I'm just staying away. Even if I see one of them in, I still don't know if I go either of them because of the prices and just how easy it is just to go City here. John McGinn, I think that's pretty good. Maybe even for cash. Like he's been super solid. Burnley's still a good matchup. He's got set pieces locked down now. I like him more than I like a Douglas Luiz, I'd say. I feel like he's got a little bit more upside. Douglas Luiz, you're kind of hoping for a penalty kicker, an assist off of a corner or something for a splitting defensive midfielder. Like I'm not a big fan of him here. There's Jensen himself. Um, I wish he was like a K cheaper for this much. You know he's probably not going to go 90. He didn't even go 90 when he was healthy. Now he's coming back from injury. I doubt he goes the distance. So for 6,700, I think it's a little much, even though he has monopoly. Musa Diaby, he's been priced up slightly. I liked him when he was like 5,600. For this much, for a guy who knows is going to get subbed, he's less intriguing. Gary Tielemans, questionable. If we see him without Douglas Luiz, he might split, which would make him interesting. Otherwise, not really gonna bat an eye at him. We got our crappy center mid set takers. I'm not really a fan of either Garner or Brownhill here. Jack Harrison, I don't think is that bad. He scored that goal against Man City. It's not a bad GPP play. You're just looking for really upside for cheap in GPP, which he can definitely offer. Mika Hamilton. Did I pass Nunez too? I'll talk about Nunez first. Yeah, 5K, I think that's a good way to get to Man City. If we see no Alvarez, it probably means Mateus Nunez takes some sets, which would be a great edge. We saw that in Champions League. Nunez would get a lot of game time. They'd rest Alvarez. If Man City somehow do that here, Nunez is like the lock of the slate. With Alvarez, he's still not a bad cheap way to get to City. I know he got subbed, really didn't really do anything last game, but like 5-4 and 60 minutes isn't that bad. If he can get like a 90, like an 8, that's pretty solid for 5K. Mika Hamilton, I'd love if Mika Hamilton plays for 4K. He's not played it in the league at all, but 4K Man City attacker, he scored in the Champions League. Love that. Like then, here's a good play. You need value here. If we see Andre Gomez starting, we know he alphas Garner now for set pieces. He's a lock. Like he's one of the few really cheap guys who has some path of doing good somehow. Like most of these guys, like there's just not that much value for under 4K. Like none. Will Keys if there's no Elise somehow. Oh, I saw one more guy actually. Zaniolo, he's been awful, like in every stretch of the world. He still had a goal against Sheffield, still scored under 12 points. Like you hope for that though anyway. You hope for a 10 with his goal and yellow card. Like you just plug in Zaniolo here if he starts. Like he's terrible, but he gets you Man City pieces, he gets you other expensive pieces. So I hope we get Zaniolo and Andre Gomez since they can just plug them and then just stack expensive city pieces around them. And nothing really. Like none of this is really interesting. Defender. It's another not super strong defender slate. Dinier is out. Alex Moreno. He was super chalk when he was 4K and had these 20 points. Like for 5.5, I'm not as interested in. Like I don't think that's that terrible of a play, but the thing is you just want to get to more exposure of the expensive attackers, which paying up a D does not get you. Like I don't really love any of them. Like Moreno's probably the best one. If you really want to get a little bit different, you can go him and maybe fade, go for more balanced build and not play as many 10K pieces. But I think that's a dumb thing to do in cash and GPP. You could maybe make the argument for it. In terms of the other defenders, like there's Gavardio and Kyle Walker. But I don't mind Gavardio if he's at left back, but you never really know for sure where he's going to be. Same with Walker. They both could end up at center back or right back, just depending on how Pep goes about it. And we know he changes every game. So I'm not sure about either of them. Rico Lewis, you just plug. I think if he's in his attacking role, we plugged him against Crystal Palace. He had 19 points with the goal. He's a cheap way to get to city exposure. So I hope he's in. Like you just plug that for 4K. Everything else, like I think you likely just go all the way down here to like Toddy Gomez or some other kind of center back who has some ability to get points. I think Kine for 3K, I don't think is that bad. He had the best game ever against Chelsea with 6.5. But like you just have to find these little cheap pieces. Chris Richards is fine. Michael Keane is fine. Branthwaite at left back. Like you just find some combo here and hope you choose right. I played Disasi last Premier League slate. He had 7 somehow, and he was playing center back and swapped to right back in the second half. Like there's definitely ways for these cheap guys to get points, and just have to risk it because you really what's important is getting the expensive guys right. Since the swings there is going to be 20 points, when these cheap defender swings is going to be like 5 to 7. So it's not really that important. You're just having them to get the good pieces you want. Goalkeeper. I know I always say never pick Ederson. I don't think Ederson's that bad here. Like, I just don't think Sheffield United score. He as bad as ever Ederson's been. Like, if he faces a shot on target, it usually goes in. I just don't even think that he has to make a save here. Like, I think he's good for a save 10, honestly. I mean, Martinez, I like him. He's just been so cold, so I worry about that a little bit. I think I'd play Ederson over him. I feel like Ederson's got to finally get there. If you're not going one of them, I think you probably pay down to like a Jordan Pickford or like a Flecken, Trafford even. Like and even I feel that goalkeepers like play him if you have to, or just play whoever fits. Don't focus on it too hard. In terms of a core, I wanted to see if I could do this. You definitely can do that. I think you probably go Foden Alvarez, and then you kind of leave the third spot for debate. You go maybe a Bernardo, you go maybe an Elise. I don't think I even touched on Jack Grealish here, but I think he's probably the most cheap Man City attacker. I think he definitely is the most cheap Man City attacker, and that's not a bad way to go either. Like you go one of him, Elise, Bernardo. You hope for an Andre Gomez or a Zaniolo, and you go one of them. You could even go like a Grealish McGinn, I want to say, or is that not doable? I think you could maybe squeeze that just about. PvP can maybe fade an Alvarez, go down to a cheaper attacker, and then you could do that for sure. So yeah, for cash, I'd just go Alvarez, Foden, and then I'd for core, I'd go Alvarez, yeah, Foden, and then Gomez or Zaniolo, depending on who starts. I'd prefer, I think Zaniolo. If it's one or the other, you likely just go both though. All right, I think that about covers it, guys. Man City Slate, our favorites. So who you get the roulette wheel right, and hope everyone has a good New Year's. This will be my last video of the year, and hopefully we keep trucking on the next year and have a good time. All right, guys. Later.